Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Hey, folks, we are driving it home. Guess what? I know you weren't expecting to hear this voice. I know they weren't expecting to hear, or yours. It's Elliott, Serrano, and Ken Mejia-Beal. We're back
again.
Wasn't expecting this, to be honest. I mean, we did our shows earlier this week.
We did.
You hosted on Monday. I hosted on Tuesday. We flip-flopped our host, who was host and co-host, which really pretty much meant who goes to the text line and the callers and who reads who does the reads.
All about designation of duties.
He said duty.
I said duty.
And then Patti got stuck in New Orleans. Her flight got canceled.
It sure did.
So she's down there. If you haven't been following Patti on her social medias or even on the Patti Vasquez show page, she was supposed to be back. Her flight got canceled. And then she reached out to me. I want to say it was Wednesday.
Yeah.
Because she already had another host for Thursday.
Adam.
Yeah. Adam. And then she said, "Hey, can you play radio one more day?" I go, "Okay, yeah, I'll play."
She knows who to reach out to.
And then I automatically texted you. I said, "Hey, Ken, we want to do one more day?"
And I said, "Absolutely."
There we go.
Absolutely.
Because I think the K&E.
The K&E show is back.
We ride again. We're like Butch and Sundance, but you're better looking, and I'm afraid of jumping off cliffs.
Okay,
that's where they did that.
That we can make that happen.
We can do. No, I don't want to do that.
We can.
I do not want to jump off a literal cliff. Although I will be jumping off figurative cliffs. And I will say this,
as we all will.
It
over
was
the course
this
of
week.
The next 4 years.
Yeah, got me started. So if you've been following me on social media, Elliott Serrano, 2 L's, 2 T's, 2 R's. It's funny. My Monday was really good. I woke up in a really positive frame of mind on Monday. I even posted my what I made for breakfast on Monday.
Did you?
I posted it on my Instagram with a little chipper kind of music and saying, "Hey, don't let the the such and suches get you down." And I was feeling really good.
Yeah.
And then it seemed like I was tempting the fates by doing that, because then things just started happening to kind of bing, bing, just poke at you, reality.
Yeah.
And then my mood just kept deteriorating from there.
Right.
And then by the time we hit midweek, I was in the worst mood. And then I actually did radio yesterday.
Yeah.
I was on a different radio station because, again, I am a media free agent. If you're a radio station and you want to hire me,
call Elliott.
Let me know. I'm here. I'm available. Not that the folks at CPT aren't generous and say, "Hey, Elliott, come on in. We love you. You can come in from time to time."
Yeah.
But if you want to make an honest person out of me, I'll do it. But anyway, and I did it on the conservative station yesterday.
I'm so sorry. And
no, don't get me wrong. They're good there too. It's not like they hammer me in there. In fact, it's a conservative station where the people there are fairly. It's because it's ground level folks, like local folks who don't have like the crazy.
Well, let's not call it conservative. Let's call it right leaning.
Well, yeah, a little right leaning. Yes.
Because there's a difference.
That is true. And then conservative, even it's not even like the further up you go, the less you can really call it conservative.
Right.
I think conservatism is a myth now. It's not even real.
We can talk about that.
We'll talk about that. Yeah. But so I did it yesterday, and I was in the mood. And then the host of that show, why am I saying me? You guys we did a crossover with Apolitical Talk Show. It was Dennis Green from Apolitical Talk Show, WRMN Radio.
Awesome.
We've a couple times back when I hosted, we actually did a crossover between our two shows.
That's pretty cool.
When Dennis was on, and Dennis, great guy, WRMN Radio. You can't get it in the city is a problem. You have to live out in the west suburbs.
Like Elgin, right?
Yeah, Elgin, Schaumburg, all that stuff. If you're out in that direction, you can hear the radio station. I know when I listen to it on my way in, by the time I get to the station, I can't hear it anymore.
Got it.
So that's a problem. Anywho, so I was on it, and Dennis is not a conservative. He's very much he's actually more, he's a really center left kind of person.
Got it. Okay.
And all I'd say, the longer the show went, because we were talking about the executive orders, which we talked about as well.
We did talk about those.
But the more he talked about it, and as people were calling in, the more and more depressed I got. Until finally, a gentleman from the West Suburbs who is a Republican, who has run for office in Elgin, again, good guy.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying this to denigrate him or to criticize whatever, but he and I, we were having a back and forth on the whole thing about, Trump had pardoned all the January 6th insurrectionists. Yeah. And we talked about this.
We did.
Including the ones that assaulted the police.
Absolutely.
So how can Republicans say that they back the blue if Donald Trump is going to pardon criminals who assaulted police? And the officers that were affected were very, very angry about it.
Rightfully so.
And there are a couple police unions in the nation that have spoken out against it. Mind you,
they all should.
Still haven't heard from the Chicago FOP.
And you won't.
Probably not.
You will not.
But anyway, so this person calls in and he goes, well, you know that Joe Biden commuted a sentence or pardoned that. Was it commuted? I forget what the term was. There was a death row inmate who killed the cop, and he won't be executed on death row.
Okay.
But he will spend the rest of his life in prison.
Okay.
It's not like he let him loose.
Right.
It's like he was on death row. He will not meet execution for shooting a police officer.
Okay.
And he goes, so if Joe Biden did that,
we're comparing apples to oranges, but continue. Sorry.
I know. And to which point I went, okay, because we get this whenever you get into a discussion or a debate or even an argument with Trump supporters, they always have that. Well, we saw this all about the whataboutism, but Obama, but yeah. Remember we heard that all the time, and I'm past that now. I'm done arguing. I'm done debating. It's at this point we both know what camps we're in.
Right.
So I just came out and I said, okay. Cool. Biden did this, and your guy did that. So what really made your guy any better?
And what was the response?
And there was a pause. I go, look, I'm serious. You're telling me you want your guy, but if your guy is doing the same things that my guy is doing, what makes your guy better? Tell me, what makes your guy better? And he couldn't say. And he goes, well, it's because he's in office. And I was like, there you go.
Gotta love it.
It was never about the price of eggs.
No.
It was never about the economy.
No.
It was never about what people are going through. No. Or remember, 2016, it was economic anxiety. 2020, it was the whole... everything's out of control. We trust Republicans are better at the economy. It was never about that. It was just about getting your guy in office. And I finally got a Republican to admit it. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And with that, let's go to Jim, who's been waiting since we came on air. Hey, Jim, how you doing?
Hi, guys. You have a great weekend. I waited with bated breath for the medical advice from the Republicans, especially Trump. His university. I know he studied medicine diligently, but if bird flu makes a jump or whatever disaster awaits us, he's cut off all medical channels in the United States. He doesn't want to hear from any scientists. We've got Kennedy Jr. in the wings. And all I can say is I can only imagine the advice we would get from Trump if a bird flu epidemic could jump to human beings. It's supposed to be very deadly, but whatever the situation we're in, he'll be glad to give us advice like he did the last time. Who can forget it? But what was interesting about the last pandemic was Bob Woodward and him are discussing the pandemic in February. And Bob Woodward says, what do you think of this pandemic? And Trump says, well, it's going to be very deadly. It's going to be really a mess, really deadly. Well, he dummies up for, a month? It was a month. And he dummied up. He never told anybody. Of course, being a responsible president, in his mind, it's better to keep your mouth shut because maybe it'll go away, But anyway, that's the outfit we're looking at now. We're looking at. I'm waiting for my medical advice from the people at Trump University. I'm sure they all graduated cum laude from that place, and we'll get our medical advice from them. And I'll be happy to take it. And maybe the Proud Boys will be manning the vaccination stations.
Oh, God.
That should be fun.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, you guys have a great weekend. Thank you.
You too, Jim. Thank you for calling.
Okay, so this is like almost what happened yesterday, where the callers and the hosts were sending me into a spiral, and Jim's also just doing that now. You're sending me into a spiral, folks.
Not the spiral. Not on a Friday. Come on. We will not spiral on Friday, guys. We will not spiral. You know, I do want to say this. I think this week has been a week. It's been the longest week in a long time. But what has made you happy this week? There has to be something, and I'm not just saying that to you, Elliott.
Yeah, no, okay.
I think everyone, we need to collectively.
That's why I asked you to come be here. Because I need you to help me do this.
I am the upper.
Pull me out of this spiral.
That's what I do.
So I got about 2 minutes to think about this over the break.
Okay, let's think about what made you happy this week.
And everybody, also think about it as you listen to the show. And I don't want to send everybody into a spiral. So call in 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. What made you happy this week?
Made you happy.
With everything that went on, and try to make me happy too, all right? This is Elliott Serrano and Ken Mejia-Beal guest hosting Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities, in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
We're driving it home with special guest hosts Elliott Serrano and Ken Mejia-Beal. If you're wondering who is this voice that's coming out of my radio now, I am accustomed to hearing the dulcet tones of a Patti Vasquez. Patti's still in New Orleans right now, so there's been a number of fill-in hosts.
Living her best life in the snow in New Orleans.
Remember how we were kind of like going, a Chicagoan brought all that snow with her down to New Orleans? She posted it on her social. She goes, "Don't blame me."
Too late, Patti. Too late.
And it wasn't just like a dusting. We're talking, it came down.
I mean, I saw pictures and I said, wow, that is...
But entire expressways were shut down. I mean, the whole city was shut. People just could not drive,
Well, they don't know how. They don't have the practice that we do.
Right. And they also don't have, like, snow and salt trucks and plows and that kind of thing.
It's a huge inconvenience to get snow in a place where it doesn't happen often.
It's like whenever snow hits Atlanta, the entire city.
They don't know what to do.
Yeah. I mean, that too. You would think they would kind of like learn over time, and
I don't think it happens enough for them to
guess. It's going to start happening. I'm telling you, with
climate change real? I mean, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. Yeah. Who's been telling us that this whole time?
It's going to start happening.
Oh, wow. I can't believe it.
All right. Okay. Okay, here we go. Let's go to the text line real quick, because I know I didn't hit the texts enough last time. Every time we've been on.
I love how self-reflective you are.
I try to be. And especially when it comes to hosting a show that is it relies so much on conversation and people chiming in and letting their opinions be heard. Folks, I know the last time I was here, we got lots of texts.
Yeah, a lot.
And I read them all. Don't get me wrong. I read them all. Mm-hmm. And as I'm reading them, I'm trying to figure out how to fit them into the conversation as we go. But I know that we got way more texts last time than I actually was able to read.
Okay.
So I don't want folks to feel like we're ignoring you. And I know, especially when I'm on, I love just seeing that like the thing here just turns green.
Well, then you know what we should do today?
Yeah.
We should prioritize our texting.
That's what we're going to do now. Let's do that now. Okay, so let me go down the list. And this is, I think this came on just with the previous show, was a good question. Okay. I did want to bring this up. From the 847, the presidency has evolved and now has too much power. I agree. The president should not be able to willy-nilly issue orders without approval from other branches of government. That's actually Congress's job, right? How can the public or Congress reduce and limit the power of the president? That's up to Congress.
That is a congressional thing, but I keep standing on the fact that I think the way our country and our political system was set up was not built to sustain idiocracy. I think the way everything was developed, it was developed in such a way that the general public would elevate the smartest and the best of the land to do the job.
That was in theory.
In theory.
Yes.
And if only they could see where we are today, I think things would have been different. Or maybe not for me. I probably would be picking cotton or something somewhere. But maybe if they could have seen something, things would have been better. I don't know.
I think,
but our country was not built. Our democracy is very fragile. And I think that's the one thing that Americans never realized until the first Trump administration. Our democracy is not a strong democracy. It is very fragile and is based on the general public and slave states.
The democracy is very susceptible to populism.
Yeah.
And populism can be... Yeah, populism is a dangerous thing.
It's very dangerous.
It's a dangerous thing.
It's very dangerous, and especially when we live in an age of entertainment over substance.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So, yeah, and I said this last time, Congress is just weak-willed, doesn't do its job.
We need more progressives in Congress.
We need people to hold congressional representatives accountable for things. And the thing
I agree.
The thing that Congress relies on, it's always Congress points to the president. Congress points to the Supreme Court. Congress deflects from itself because there's so many representatives within Congress, it's kind of hard to just hold one of them accountable. They know that congressional representatives are like, there's so many of us, and we have our little coalitions, and that's how they preserve themselves.
Well, I'm also going to say something else. My biggest issue with Congress in America is they don't have time. They don't have time to really take a moral high ground because every time they turn around, they're up for re-election, which means if they do something that's progressive or I'm using bunny ears, radical or whatever, they don't have time to look. Let me backtrack a little bit. Our senators are in office for 6 years. So if they start something in the beginning of their term, by the end of their term, they can look at it and explain why it failed or take pride in how it succeeded. Our Congress folks don't have that. In 2 years, you can't really look at something and say this is great or this is bad. So it's a lot involved in this, but I do think electing more people that are actually working for the people instead of the power and instead of whatever our more moderate centrist Congress folks are doing will make a huge difference.
From the 385, Elliott, I tried to listen to your other station. It's another right-wing freak show. I'm sorry.
I didn't say that, 385.
Don't they have some national word? Yes, actually, that's the issue. Is that once you get beyond the local programming, which is from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., then it goes to the network, and some of it's like, yes, it's more, again, the right-wing stuff.
Yeah.
And we're slowly phasing that stuff out, but it takes some time. But yes, I'm actually happy because you guys and Seltzer were good, replacing my favorite host, Patty, on a tough week.
Oh, thank you, 385.
Actually, that was Mark. Thank you, Mark, very much for the compliment. We appreciate that. I was happy to see that Trump could not kiss Melania. She had a hat on. It made me giggle. Remember, she had that
She wore that hat for a reason. I think she is so sick of kissing that man. She did not want to end up back in the White House. This is her nightmare. Melania's hell is my hell.
It's everyone's hell. She's like, mind you, she doesn't mind the fact that now you have Melania coin out there. That's the newest Bitcoin.
Listen,
Bitcoin scam.
She's taken advantage just like any other opportunist would.
But so many people have already lost money on it. They've already lost money on the Bitcoin.
Let me shed
on the Trump coin, especially
smallest tear for those people.
It's ridiculous. All right.
And play the world's smallest violin. It's all happening at this very moment.
From Susie and Crystal Lake, what makes me happy is knowing that so-and-so is one day closer to his demise.
Well, thanks, Susie. I just want to, when I say happy, and this is, I think what happened during the last cycle, and I saw this a lot with folks, it becomes, and I don't want to use the term Trump derangement syndrome. I want to find another term, and I can't think of it right now, but we get so entrenched in Trump, that you turn around as 4 years later or 2 years later, and so many wonderful things have happened that we've missed. The world is really such a beautiful place. Yes, we're in a bad place. My role here in this world, in this place, in this body that I'm possessing until it decides to roll over and just turn it back into dirt, is to bring happiness to the world and joy. And it's hard to do that with Trump in office. However, I'm going to keep trying to do it because I don't want us to turn around. Life is fleeting. And in 2 years, you've spent the whole entire 2 years angry and depressed and sad. Yet I think anger should be like gasoline. It should fuel you to do something positive, not stagnate you just to whine and moan for 2 years. So if you're taking your anger and you're starting an organization, you're running for office, you're getting good folks elected for office, good for you. But if you're using that anger just to sit in a place and be bitter, I encourage you not to do that.
There's all these weird things that I reflect on, these little lessons that I learned as I was growing up, whether it was from in church, different books I've read. You know, it's funny how I was a big science fiction nerd as a kid.
Shocker.
And there's so much stuff, like we read about it in science fiction books, and like George Orwell's 1984, Animal Farm.
Yeah.
That's science fiction.
Yeah.
And it's him.
And now there's cameras on every
right. And you look at the writers of those science fiction novels, and they predict, like, it was so much, they weren't predicting the technology as how people would be in the future, right? So I look at that and I go, wow, it's like we saw this sort of thing coming.
Absolutely.
And there's one thing that gets me. I always remember it in The Empire Strikes Back. I'm going to get a little nerdy, folks, right before we hit this break. There's that scene in The Empire Strikes Back when Luke goes to Dagobah. He wants to become a Jedi Knight, and he's getting trained by Yoda. And Yoda he's doing the things through the swamp, and everybody goes, "Oh, look at this! Mark Hamill's got a Muppet on his back. Isn't that cute?" Da, da, da. But as he's doing this, Yoda is teaching him, and he's talking to him about the dark side of the Force and the light side of the Force.
Yeah.
And I remember me having this same question as a kid, because when I look at, oh, wow, Darth Vader is so powerful in these movies. How is anyone going to beat him? Because he's so powerful. And Luke asks, and then Yoda says, well, there's a dark side, and you will, be careful you don't succumb, because then you will be seduced like Vader was.
Yes.
And Luke goes, Vader? And he goes, and then at one point he goes, is the dark side stronger? And Yoda goes, no, it's not, but it's more seductive, more easy to join you in a fight. It's like when you succumb to the dark side, you think it makes you powerful,
but it doesn't.
But it just brings out that dark part of you.
Yes.
And then oh my goodness! And of course, George Lucas, again, speaking of these things, when he comes to the dark side, he goes, dark side, it comes from fear.
Yes.
Fear leads to anger.
Yes.
Anger leads to hate.
Yes.
And hate leads to suffering.
Yes.
And I have never understood that better than I have now within these past 8-10 years now.
I can understand that, yeah. Same.
So, that is something. So, we have a heartbreak coming up, and we have a lot more to talk about. More texts coming in. I have Steve. Steve, I see you on the screen in front of me. We're going to come back to you right after the break. This has been something here, and the conversation has just started. 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. Call, text, participate here on Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now at 773-763-9278. Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez now on WCPT 820.
We're driving it home on the Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez show with special guest hosts Elliott Serrano.
I thought you forgot your name for a moment. Continue, Elliott.
Really? Yeah, thank you. So don't drink coffee right at the break, because then something's going to come up and you got to.
Woo.
And we don't even have cough buttons here. Is there a cough button? Where's a cough button?
Oh,
I didn't even see the cough. There's a cough button.
I've been crawling under the desk each and every time. Like I don't belong here.
I need the cough button, or for my belch button, actually. But anyway, Elliott Serrano, Chicago's King of Geeks, the Chief Geek Officer for the Patti Vasquez Show.
Yes.
And, of course, I call myself a political humorist.
Okay. You make me laugh. So
I try.
There you go.
I try. As a political humorist, I try to find a humor in politics. It's getting harder and harder.
It is.
We got and special co-guest host Ken Mejia-Beal of
Treasurer of Youth Outlook. You can find us at youth-outlook.org, one of Illinois' best and finest LGBTQ resources for young folks and their families.
And I always tell everybody, you are an Illinois Democrat. I was actually talking about you to the station manager at the other radio station that I go to.
My ears were burning this morning.
He'd like to have you on. I told him you would love to be there.
I would love to be on.
Come into the Lion's Den. You know,
I will say this, and God strike me down. No, don't strike me down.
Yeah.
But there's a video out there. I went on a very conservative show. When I say very conservative, I had no idea it would be me and like 3 other Trumpers.
I've been on a show with 2 other Trumpers.
And
so yeah.
Halfway through the show, if you can get the video, and I won't say the name of the show because I really don't want it to be found. You literally, I'm hunched down in the chair, and every once in a while they talk to me, and I go, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why I'm here.
That was me. The day of the election. The day of the election, and the day after the election. Because
why am I here?
I went on conservative radio the morning after the election. I was like, I don't know why I'm here.
Well, no, because it got to a point where every time I opened my mouth, 3 people were yelling at me. Yeah. So I was like, never. I now know what being on The View is like, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
I will say, though, that the folks I was with on the other station were very respectful. They didn't talk over me or anything.
No. I'm an Illinois liberal. I don't like to say Democrat. I'm an Illinois liberal.
You're a real progressive. I mean, I'm
not. Honestly, believe it or not, when I first got into politics, I was very moderate. I was in the middle.
Same.
What changed me? And before I say what I'm about to say, I invite you to follow me at Ken Mejia-Beal. Do not at me about what I'm about to say because I will not respond politely.
See, I love how you say, this will happen in the video, but don't go looking for it.
Don't go looking for it,
and these are my socials, but don't at me.
No, what I'm saying is you can look it up, you can at me, but the response you get will be very defensive.
Yeah.
But what made me more progressive, we're watching... as I like to say, Republican lights or diet dims, whatever we're going to call them, parading around like they care about people when they don't. And I was in a sphere in the Democratic Party out in the suburbs where I watched so many Democrats trash national Democratic policies, destroy people, ignore people of color, parade around with smiles on their face in hatred, vitriol, and bigotry in their hearts. And it changed me. And I said, ooh, if these are the moderates, this isn't me. I actually care about people. I want people to live. So, yeah, I am progressive now, but I would not be progressive if it weren't for the horrible moderates in the suburbs that changed me.
Oof.
I said what I said, and I'm not sorry.
No, in fact, I see it. And I do have a similar experience.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about something like that. We'll probably talk about that in the next hour. My experience is similar with the church.
Oh.
But, hey, we've got Steve in Park Ridge who's been holding for a while. Steve, thank you so much for holding and for chiming in. You're on Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez and guest hosts Elliott Serrano and Ken Mejia-Beal. How you doing?
Hey, Steve.
I'm doing great. Hey, listen, I've been a follower of this radio station for well over 10 years. And one of the very first calls I ever made was to Tom Hartman. And it was in relationship to Donald Trump before he accepted the nomination from the Republicans. And I called Tom's show, and I said, Tom, are you familiar with the book by William Shirer, The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, which is one of the most seminal historical volumes ever done on Nazi Germany? And Tom, of course, had. And I said, there's something about this Trump that just sort of reminds me of what I read about Hitler. Now, let's fast forward to the last 5 days and what you were both commenting on just a little earlier, and that is, I'm glad that Trump is doing the full effing Monty now, because those that have been asleep, those that have been awake, is this the guy you want running your country? I mean, let's not pretend. I've known all along, like so many progressives that follow this radio station, that he's an absolute whore, and he is a Hitler. But a lot of our country don't believe that. Well, guess what? The price of eggs is going up. The pardon has happened for the J6. So on and so forth. I mean, the guy is just a train wreck. We pulled out of Paris Climate Accord. The WHO, he's canceled cancer screenings or, information on it, so on and so forth. So I think what I'm trying to say is this. I'm glad he's doing the full Hitler and not waiting for 5 weeks or 5 months or 5 years, because we've had a whole term of his doing Hitler, and then he still can't accept the fact that he lost. So we either wake up as a country or we are finished, but I think we're waking up. What do you guys think?
It's to your point, Steve. I mean, I'm kind of like I'm going to echo that. It's like I'm glad. Hey, you know what? It's like the whole, let's just get to it. Let's not draw it out. No, it's like the whole, I do not want to be going through the creaky mansion with the spooky music and the serial killers there with the knife around the corner. Yes. And I got to keep going and wait. No, like you said, Trump has come right out. He's come right at us.
Yes.
And he sees, and we're like, okay, here it goes. Here we go.
Let's let it happen. And I will say this. I am. So I agree in some ways. I guess I saw the nightmare the first time, so I don't get how so many people didn't.
A surprise,
yeah. I will say this second time around for me though, the first time around it was a different experience for me. This time I'm very calm.
Well, it's because you know what's coming.
Because I know this is a nightmare, and it's nothing.
May I interject?
Sure.
May I interject that Project 2025, which I'm confident you both are appraised of, and I've been following.
Yes.
That was the blueprint.
Yes,
and it's all out there.
It's out there. Yeah.
I have the luxury of being 75. I've been retired for over 10 years, so I have time to study, to research, to call radio stations, to have a Facebook page, et cetera, and I don't have an employer looking over my shoulder. But the average person, if we go back in time and I was 35, 45, 55 working in corporate America, A, I don't know that I would know what's going on, and B, I would be afraid if I feel the way I feel now to come out of my shell. So a lot of it, I'm in a sense giving those that aren't quite up to speed a little bit of deference because they're not retired. They don't have the time to really absorb politics. Mm-hmm. But I do this I have grown children in their 30s, and I've made it. I'm basically, I've made it. Let's just put it that way, corporately and otherwise. I own 2 homes. I've got a life, but our country is in danger of going into a full-out autocracy, authoritarian, Putin-style Russia. And by the way, I just read Alexei Navalny's memoir, Patriot, and if one wanted to know what a modern-day patriot is and looks like, read that book, because that man, he gave his life for his motherland.
Yeah.
Putin killed him. Pure and simple.
Well, Man, Steve, I'm asking folks to get me out of this tailspin here. It's not working. All right, Steve, thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate you chiming in. And, that's something. To the point that it's out there, people see the playbook,
yes.
People should know the playbook.
Yes.
Let's be honest, the people who voted Trump into office were the ones who were ignoring that, or who didn't want to believe it, or just weren't paying attention.
I disagree with you. I think the people that voted for Trump...
But I'm saying, a lot of folks who voted for him liked the playbook.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm just saying those people who were again, weren't necessarily the Trump voter type.
Yeah.
We're talking, what were they saying? That the ones that swung in his direction were, again, college-age young male voters.
And we've talked about this on the show. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. But we've talked about this on the show. I've said it. I'm going to keep saying it until the cows come home. The Democratic Party, over the next 2 years, needs to build a initiative to bring back the voters into the fold that have left. I'm from a traditionally Democratic African-American family. I have members of my family that voted for Trump. It was devastating. So there is a disconnect. We are losing a lot of men to the Republican Party. We are losing a lot of folks of color, and these are fragments. Goodness, thank you. Of our population that want to be included, they're not seeing themselves in the Democratic Party. They're not necessarily seeing themselves in the Republican Party. So they're picking what they can grasp, and what they can grasp are sound bites of 30 seconds, and they're not picking up on the long messaging of the Democrats. We have a lot of work to do. We can do it. We can get it done. But and I can't say this enough, what the Democratic Party has to do is stop looking at the Republicans and saying Trump, 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 and start looking at ourselves and say, what can we do better? Because if this was sports and we were a football team and we kept losing, Chicago Bears, we wouldn't look at the other team and go, well, they're just a great team. We will look at ourselves and go, no, our offensive line needs work. Let's do this. Let's do that. There's a lot that can be done. I'm not giving up hope yet. I just hope that the people at the top are actually listening and paying attention.
Well, not that people that listen to this station necessarily follow sports, but the Bears did exactly do that. They saw another team in their division that was constantly beating them. They went in and they got their offensive coordinator to be their own head coach.
That works too.
So it's like you take the guy from the opposing team that has the playbook that works, you bring him over to your side so that you can start using that playbook.
I guess what I'm saying is you have to admit that your team has an issue.
Yeah.
Until you can own that there is a problem, you're going to be chasing your tail. And I think that's where we are. I think there are two factions. There are the faction that says, okay, we as a party have work to do on ourselves. And there's the other factions like, we're perfect. We don't know what happened. I'm a part of the side that can say, okay, this is what we need to work on. As long as there's enough of us that are working on the problem. That's why I still have hope. And nothing will take that away from me today, folks.
Hope be changey.
Hope be changey.
From the 331, hey guys, please ask the listeners to watch Vigilantes, Inc. by Greg Pallas. He was a guest on Tom Hartman this morning. It's free on YouTube. Thanks, Barb in West Chicago. Thanks for telling us about that, Barb. All right, we got another break here. When we come back, we're going back to the phone lines, back to your texts, folks. 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. It's Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez and special guest hosts Elliott Serrano and Ken Mejia-Beal. We'll be back in a bit.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez on WCPT 820.
And we are driving it home with special guest hosts Elliott Serrano, the Chief Geek Officer for Patti Vasquez, the Patti Vasquez Show, and Ken Mejia-Beal, our favorite Illinois. Well, you don't like being called a Democrat.
You can call me a Democrat. I'm a liberal.
You're my favorite liberal. Tell me, my favorite liberal. What else can people listen to on WCPT?
Oh, we have a lot tomorrow on The Big Picture. Edwin Essendrath's guest are Jason Stanley, professor of what is happening? Philosophy at Yale University, a college I clearly did not go to, and distinguished professor at the Kiev School of Economics, Tiffany Muller, president of president of In Citizens United. Alex Aronson, co-founder and executive director of Court Accountability, and Andrew Friedman, senior climate reporter for Axios? Why can't I pronounce anything today? The Big Picture with Edwin Ezendrath, Saturdays from 1 to 4 p.m. Central on WCPT 820. Monday on Choose Views, Richard Chu will be here taking your calls and talking to Nathan Schrader, professor of political science at New England College. Creek Stewart, survival expert and author of Disaster Survival 101, and author and investigative journalist Greg Palast. Choose Views weekdays from 6 to 8 a.m. Central on WCPT 820. Monday afternoon, 2 to 5, Joan Esposito will be back, and our guests include immigration attorney Kate Lincoln Goldfinch and Cameron Stevenson, founding editor and chief political correspondent at the Arizona-based Cooper Courier Newsroom. Live, local, and progressive weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m. on WCPT 820. Wow.
Do you need cue cards next time?
I don't know what is happening. Listen, in my head, the letters are coming in right, and then out of my mouth is like, that is not...
That's fine.
The other day, I was reading the word choreography. Choreography, and I kept saying choreography, and I was like, no, that's not right. It's not choreography.
I know that feeling. That's okay. See,
and English is my only language. I just want to say.
I'm telling you, live.
Very sad.
No,
doing the best I can, folks.
It's like, oh my God. Okay.
Reading is not my strong suit.
No.
Talking is.
Reading and talking. It's like chewing gum at the end.
It's so hard, y'all. It's so hard.
773-763-9278. You can call or text. Tell us what's been making you happy this week. I know this has been a heck of a week. Myrna texts in, what made me smile? When the bishop made Trump uncomfortable.
Yes.
Made Melania mad enough to give her dirty looks.
I don't think it was a dirty look.
No, I'm saying the bishop didn't give her dirty looks. She didn't give the bishop dirty looks. Trump made Melania...
I get it. I'm with you. I think that's what her face looks like.
Oh, that's like...
I genuinely think her face is stuck like that.
And the way the Trumps were staring the bishop down, but Tiffany Trump was sitting with a sort of smirk on her face behind Melania.
Yeah, I feel like Tiffany Trump is just there.
Well,
I feel like she's the daughter. She doesn't necessarily agree with it, but it's like, I'm on TV.
Which is the one who had the record album that came out was singing?
The record album?
Was it Laura Trump? Which one of them was a singer? One of the Trumps.
There's a singing Trump?
Yeah, there's a singing Trump.
Well,
yeah.
I did not know that, so...
I don't know.
A singing Trump?
Yeah, there's one that sings.
Wow.
Had an album.
Well, let me hop on Amazon and
oh, God.
And grab that one right away.
Wow. And Laura Trump can thank me.
Yeah, for that
sale.
one album sale.
If it is her, I could be wrong about
which
Trump
it is. That I will stream. It'll be 1 penny, folks.
It could be. I don't know which Trump it is, but I know there is one that sang.
No, but I mean,
in an album.
In a family with that many, we forget Trump is from New York, so it's not hard to believe that. I don't believe that all of his kids have his same ideology 100%.
Oh, yeah.
But I also don't think Trump has his own ideology. I think he's an opportunist who found his way in.
I'm thinking about I think Laura's the one that criticizes him all the time.
I thought her name was Mary. Is that Mary?
One of them. Okay. Oh, it could be Mary. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. One of them, I know he has... There is a Trump that criticizes him and talks about how terrible he is. And then there are the other ones that you say are the opportunists.
Yeah, they're opportunists. I mean, I honestly don't believe Trump believes 50% of the things that he says. I think he found a way in, and he's just going with it.
From the 708, there's a post about the ICE raids that are happening everywhere. I know there was supposed to be one. We had Lady B was so kind to give us some printouts here of 3 different stories. Are the local coverage talking about apparently there was an ICE raid at a Chicago school, but it turned out that wasn't necessarily ICE. I know the most recent one is like I guess it's Secret Service, ICE agents were turned away from a Chicago Chicago South Side School.
Which I still have questions about. I just want to throw that out there, but it is.
Here's my question, though, is and I asked this yesterday on the other station, when it comes to, and I think I brought this up here the last time we were here, is why are they, if you really want to get rid of all these quote unquote illegals, I mean, I have a hard time calling anyone illegal.
Well, because no one is illegal on stolen land.
Right. It's quote unquote illegals. Why are we starting in the states like where sanctuary cities are, like where you're going to get the most resistance? Well, I know, but I'm saying the practical. It's like go to all the red states where they want you to get rid of them, and then start actually addressing the quote-unquote problem as opposed to just doing all this for the attention, as you said.
I also think, on top of the economy, I think that he does this because he, at his core, is a bad, evil person that enjoys chaos and terror, which is why this is all happening. Just traumatizing helpless people. It makes him feel like a powerful big man.
And someone, okay, hold on. Tiffany is the one who was at President Carter's funeral and was making sure she was seen by cameras. Yeah, that's
there you go.
And then someone else chimed in that Laura is the one, I think, was the singer.
Got it.
I could be wrong, but I think Laura is the one who has the record album.
I'm gonna have to check that out on the way home.
So here's the thing. Then, okay, Steve, is this the same Steve or a different Steve? Different Steve.
Different Steve. Lots of Steves in the world.
Hi, Steve. We have another Steve. Thank you. Welcome to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
There are so many Steves that call into this show.
Yeah.
I'm Steve from Chicago. I'm not Steve from Park Ridge or Steve from the Gold Coast.
or Steve from Orland Park. They're like, they're less.
Oh, I forgot about him. Yeah.
How you doing?
So I was calling in to straighten out your trumps. You've gotten most of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Laura's the so-called singer. Tiffany is the one whose mother took her out to California at a very young age to get her away from Trump. And Mary Trump is his niece, who, if you're not familiar with her writing, check her out. She's, I believe, a therapist. And she has written very incisively about how insane he is, how damaged he is, and how, he's a horrible, horrible, dangerous person. But I also wanted to chime in on the strategy for the rounding up the undocumented immigrants. As I pointed out so many times, they do not want to end undocumented immigration. They love it. It gives them an easily manipulated workforce and a convenient scapegoat. So that's why the reasons they're doing it in places like Chicago. They just tried to get into an elementary school, of all places today. It's all about terrifying people and throwing red meat to their base. There will be brown people rounded up. Some of them will actually be American citizens, because that's what happened the last two times the Republicans rounded up undocumented immigrants. And they'll be paraded in front of the cameras. It won't be a whole lot of them. It'll just be enough to get their ignorant base excited. But again, I can't stress this enough. They do not want to end this. It's all about putting on a circus for their base.
Correct. 100% agree. And to speak on what you just mentioned, I read somewhere that they did do a roundup. I can't remember where, but they ended up taking a few Puerto Rican folks. And, as we all know, as we should know, Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens and clearly above their head.
I forget where it was, but there was some place within the last couple of days where they arrested somebody who, it turned out, was not only an American citizen, he was a veteran.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then you're having also some of these states which have issues with the immigration. They have, quote unquote, immigration checkpoints that are nowhere near the borders. So it's like, so you're just driving around in the state, and then they're asking for papers, so to speak.
Yeah, on the during the first Trump administration, I was on a train from Chicago to Boston, and I was walking down the aisle back to my room and saw ICE officers. And I never got a straight story about whether there was some kind of reasonable suspicion or if it was just they got on the train and if they saw a brown face, they started harassing them. But so I looked it up because I was like, well, we're nowhere near either of the borders. apparently what they consider close enough to the border to stop and check people randomly is huge. It pretty much covers most of the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
I saw that on the map.
We're back to the bad old days. Thank you so much, Steve. Yeah. Thanks for chiming in. And we've got to come up with your own moniker there. So it'll be Steve, Steve Q or something.
Well,
I don't know.
Steve will think of it. Steve will think of it.
Yeah. We know you're from Chicago, Steve, but we don't know. We'll figure that out.
We'll get this.
So it's not Steve from the Gold Coast or Orland Park Steve or whoever Steve. But hey, and my brother's name's Steve. My own brother could call in. I'd confuse him with everybody.
You would?
Well, maybe. Who knows? All right, folks. It's we're clicking along here. I'm going through the text line too. So 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. Call in, text us. A lot of conversation going on here with Elliott Serrano and Ken Mejia-Beal here on Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez. We will see you after this break.
Yes, we will.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing asses says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
We're driving it home with special guest hosts Elliott Serrano and Ken Mejia-Beal here on WCPT 820 AM on the Heartland Signal. We also want to welcome our listeners in Minnesota. In KTNF AM 950. We are so happy to have you join us. So Patti is currently still in New Orleans. She was supposed to be back. Actually, I think she was supposed to be back yesterday. I could be wrong. But for those who aren't aware, it's snowing in New Orleans, and when it snows down there, when they're not accustomed to that kind of stuff. And again, it really snowed. It wasn't like an inch or two, which would shut down the city of Atlanta. Yeah. They got I think it was 8 inches of snow.
It was a lot of snow
in New Orleans. So Patti's trying to get her way back home. She asked if Ken and I would fill in one more time. So here we are. During the first hour, if you missed it, by the way, you can always listen to all the shows on the WCPT. How can people listen to it?
Yeah, I was like, what are you doing? Just a reminder before Elliott just kicks me out of here. Just a reminder that Driving It Home has 2 new podcasts. Driving It Home full episodes and Driving It Home featured interviews. You can subscribe to one or both. The podcasts are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and Amazon. Just search for Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez or get the links on the Driving It Home show page by visiting heartlandsignal.com and clicking on Patti's picture.
So you can listen to the first hour where we were talking about reviewing some of the stuff that happened this past year. Of course, I started the hour talking about the deep spiral that I went into this week, even though my week started out really well. And then it went after that.
We got to keep you. I think we all work better and achieve more when we are working at our best self.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And we've been asking people to, call in or text with the things that have been making them happy
this week.
So if there's something you want to share, something that's been making you happy, we're all kind of struggling here. We're all kind of trying to deal. I mean, there are some people, I know I'm struggling. You could be struggling a lot.
Honestly, here it is. I'm not happy about the situation,
right.
But at the end of the day, I cannot allow myself to be mentally dilapidated because I got some fighting to do, and I can't give it all up in the first week.
No, I get that. No, I appreciate that.
Come on.
I like that. And I got to keep telling myself that.
Not going to get me on the first week.
I keep telling myself that.
I have 4 years of this.
Yeah. So, yeah. But, okay. So, we were talking about this off the air.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, this is the funniest thing. Because, again, 773-763-9278. Call or text. I read all the texts.
He does.
Okay? And just so you folks know. And I'm trying to now incorporate every text that comes through because I know this past week we were getting more texts than I was able to keep up with. And I was having a hard time incorporating all of them into the conversation. So I got this one. And I got to admit, it made me laugh. Because
it put a smile on your face.
It made me laugh because a particular voice came into my head as I read this. Okay, and again, I referred to Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back in the first hour, talking about, the dark side of the Force and the light side of the Force. Is one stronger than the other? Yoda says no, but the dark side is quicker to join you in a fight. Mm-hmm. When you're in the light side of the Force, you're at peace, you're calm. That's the light side. The dark side, you're angry. You have nothing but hatred in your heart.
Yes.
So when this text came in, I heard Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars in my head. He was like this. Democrats are weak and pathetic. That was the actual text. And that's the voice I heard in my head. That's the voice I heard in my head. Emperor Palpatine. They are weak and pathetic. And what did you say?
I read it in Rita Repulsa's voice from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and I wanted it to end with, "It's time to conquer Earth." That is how I wanted this to go. They are weak. Let's take them.
So you see, that's the thing that gets me. It's like at this point.
Okay, I just want to say, not to add fuel to the fire, the person that texted that in is probably fuming, and we're going to get more laughter this week.
Possibly. They're either like, from the 773, if this is a literal text, like this is literally how you feel, I mean, I'm sorry. That's really like, dude, like, or madam, or whoever, step back and take a breath.
I assure you that is a man. That is a man.
A man huddled in a chair.
In a basement.
Trying to figure out how to bring about the fall of the Republic and the Jedi.
While also getting free Wi-Fi from his neighbor.
Well, maybe. But add to that, again, it's like, it's fine. Hey, guess what? You know what I love, though? I will say this. Isn't it great to live in a country where you can say that kind of thing and not have to worry about, like, getting fired or losing your job or getting locked up for it? Oh, wait a minute.
It used to be.
It used to be that way. Like, if I decided, like, okay, I put this on my Facebook page this past week. I had a realization today.
Okay.
One, because we talked about it earlier this week. I know we live in a blue state.
We do.
But there are already people who work in the federal offices in Illinois who have been sent home.
Yeah.
Because of those executive orders. Mm-hmm. So it didn't matter that we're in a blue state. I also realized that by me being on this station and expressing my opinions in criticizing the Trump administration, even though I am well within my right to do it.
You are.
I can lose out on a job.
And that's unfortunate.
Because of that. Because there are people who support this administration. They might not be as open about their politics, and let's be honest, these are the people who make money. The people who make money, right.
Shocker.
And if they look at my Facebook page or they hear me on this show, they're going to go, it's not going to be that I'm capable. It's not going to be that I'm good at my job. It's not going to be that I have so much experience doing this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's just going to be that we just don't like his politics. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, it's well within your right. If you don't want to work with someone, it's your private business. Yeah. You have the right to hire who you want.
That is true.
But I don't want to hear any more about this, the most capable thing. I don't want to hear any more, well, we can't do DEI hires because it disqualifies people who are experienced. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm damn experienced. I got a lot of experience doing what I do in so many different areas.
I do. Continue.
And I'm telling you, it's rough out there.
I do want to say there is a huge difference between DEI and affirmative action. I just want to throw that out there.
Right.
Okay.
I'm so glad. Oh, thank you. From the 708. I'm so glad you're filling in for Patty. It's always great listening to you. I know Patty is working on getting home, so I doubt whiskey and a cookie will happen due to weather. Yes, for folks who watch when you have the post-show, the post-show on the Facebook page, chances are there won't be a whiskey and a cookie because, Patty's still in.
I've never been invited to the post-show show.
Really?
Well, let me say this. I usually leave right away.
I was going to say.
But
you even ditch out on me. You're like, I got an Uber waiting. Fist bump, you're gone.
You can't leave the Uber driver outside forever.
Wait a minute before you call the Uber.
That thought never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
Well, moving forward, I will be joining the whiskey and a cookie.
All right. Well, we'll do that.
Please.
And the texts are everything. Bing, bing, bing. I'm hearing the text line go off. It's go green, green, green.
Let's go.
I want to get to everything.
Yeah.
But before we do have a break right here. So this is Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez and special guest hosts Elliott Serrano and Ken Mejia-Beal on KTNF AM 950 in Minnesota and WCPT 820 AM in Chicago, as well as on the Heartland Signal. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
There's so much that goes on behind closed doors.
On WCPT 820.
We are driving it home on the Patti Vasquez Show, and the special guest hosts Elliott Serrano and Ken Mejia-Beal. Patty's still in New Orleans, so she'll be back hopefully next week. Provided
she will be back.
Provided she can get a flight.
She will.
I hope so.
They're going to figure it out.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah.
All right, folks. This has been a lot of discussion about different topics. Things have been going on this week, and we've been asking folks to call in and text as well. So if you and the text line keeps going up, I got a bunch of really great texts now.
I cannot wait.
That made me smile. I've got texts here that have made me smile. So thank you.
That is what we want.
That's what
guys. We got to find our happy. Let's find our happy, share your happy, text it in.
Exactly. Do that at 773-763-9278 or call us, 773-763-WCPT. And doing exactly that is Paul from Seattle. How you doing, Paul?
How's it going?
Hey there. How you doing?
We're good. Thanks for calling. How's your week been?
Sure. It's been horrible until this moment. This is my happy. This is
awesome.
my happy moment. So I'm.
Well, we're glad to be able to do a little of that. Yeah.
Yeah. See how I pulled that one out?
I appreciate it.
I did my happy moment. Yeah. By in comparison to making it a horrible week. No. Here's the thing. We talk about democratic messaging, and that's really kind of an oblique to the actual point. So Democrats always have this problem of, how do they talk about their policy positions without sounding so nuanced and wonky and make your eyes, roll back in your head, right? But this is actually a kind of a happy realization. The Republicans don't have that problem because, you see, the Republicans don't have any policy, right? So they don't have the problem of how do we talk about our policy positions without sounding too wonky and nuanced, right? Well, it comes down to them is they just create drama. And so it's much like a high-profile courtroom case where the side that creates the most drama influences the jury. And Democrats seem to think that they have to address these, but policy issues, people don't know. They don't know anything about policy, so they really don't know what you're talking about. It's all wonky and nuanced to them. It's kind of like, people talk about how many options do you have for Medicare or taking Social Security. People go, how the hell should I know, right? I don't know what program to get in, because the point is that, as I think Aristotle said, centuries ago, you do not need unlimited choices nor unlimited wealth to be free and happy, to have liberation and happiness. You don't need, but what all the choices of, for instance, for Medicare are basically how many more casino games can they put in there. It's kind of like which choice in casino game do you want to lose your money at? They just put more casino games in there because you don't need all those. If most people don't know they wouldn't know how to choose if they read the book 100 times, how to choose a Medicare plan. The way most people choose their doctor is a friend recommended them. They don't really know if the friend is credible or if the doctor is capable. They just, this is my recommendation. It was a personal recommendation. They don't really know. It's kind of like the ads on TV. Talk to your doctor about this. Like, listen, if I can go in there and tell my doctor to give me this medication, I don't think that's a doctor you should really have. The doctor should be making the decision about, So they don't really know. So we keep trying to address these policy issues that people really don't know about. And we fail to get in there and create drama. And Donald Trump, as incompetent as he is, that's what he does. That's his whole thing, is to create drama. And that gets people fired up. It's
Absolutely.
nothing but it's just kabuki theater. It's like, but his is burlesque kabuki theater, right? His is burlesque. And people say, "Oh, yeah, that's great."
I love burlesque, though,
and I love kabuki. So there we go.
Exactly. Well, it's high drama, and it gets your attention. But it really doesn't take any more talent than a junior high school talent show, right? I mean, that's what he does, and that's what keeps compared to the wonkiness that Democrats. So that's not about messaging. That's an approach to messaging. Is that we don't create drama that makes people stand up and say, "Yeah, that gets me excited." You can't get people excited with, these policy things are still so confusing. Who knows how to choose, right? Because there are too many damn choices anyway, and you don't need them all.
That is true.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for sharing that with us. And I've got to say, the callers are on today.
They are.
The callers are on.
Best callers in the world,
to Paul's point, because he makes great points, especially about messaging, and we've talked about this week. Yeah. It reminded me of a phrase from The West Wing, one of my favorite television show about government, where Leo McGarry was talking about that very issue. We campaign with poetry, we govern with prose.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I'm saying, what can the Democrats do? I think if the Republicans want to appeal to our darkest nature, to what we're afraid of, what we want to despair over, and turn us against each other, then Democrats, we take that playbook, but we flip it and we go to be inspirational. Something that the Harris campaign probably could have pulled off if it wasn't such a short runway for that. Or, as you said, I don't want to get into this whole thing about, yes, we could have had a convention, we could have had a nomination. There's a lot of stuff that could have. Well, I
was a delegate, and I do think that really chapped a lot of people.
Yes, it did.
It chapped a lot of people.
There are a lot of people who are still angry that President Biden was shoved
I still
aside.
get emails about it.
No, I hear about that. Yes.
And it did not feel good.
Yeah. Well, I blame freaking George Clooney for writing a freaking article on the New York Vanity Fair or whatever saying that Joe Biden has to step aside. You don't air your dirty. You don't say that stuff out loud. Behind the scenes, you don't write an article about it.
Listen, I'm not going to blame George Clooney for this, because at the end of the day, he's an actor that donates a lot of money. I really do look at so many of our elected officials, Nancy Pelosi, that really dug in those heels and said, this is what America wants. And the problem is so many of our politicians are so far removed from what America wants.
Oh, yeah.
They don't know us.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if I sat down next to Nancy Pelosi, she would go, "Where am I? I'm in the wrong place. Why is this man sitting next to me? Who is he and why is he here?"
I'm kind of thinking that right now.
I know you are. But my point is, that is why I keep saying it over and over. We need to elect more people that actually talk to the American people and know what we want.
That's why you should have like an AOC front and center.
Yes.
Instead of getting pushed aside for whoever.
For the older man with cancer or whatever.
Let's get, okay.
God bless him. I don't want to sound negative.
Let's go back to the happy.
Back to the happy.
I want some of these. Let's go to. There were some great texts here.
Yeah.
This one made me smile. And from the 773. She says, this is an uplifting text. I'm a poor senior. Can't afford a pet, but I did get 2 hermit crabs. I got them during the pandemic. Some days, the clunks of their shells against their tank was all I heard. But those little guys kept me going. Now they're big, and they come out when they hear my voice. The littlest things can bring much happiness.
I love that.
Isn't that beautiful?
I love that.
Again, the littlest things can bring much happiness.
Things.
She's taking care of these little hermit crabs, and she's been so caring for them for so long and so much, and they recognize her. They come there. Oh, God.
I love it. I will share this. I have a puppy, little Dottie Mae, who's listening right now. And the night of election, I get home, I'm just like, ugh. But at the end of the day, all she wanted was me to sit down, take her for a walk, and to rub her head. And it was like, this is what matters in life. Like,
yeah. Exactly.
Love.
Exactly.
Love is all that matters, folks.
Oh, speaking of love, this brings us to this next text here. From the 815, everything is so messed up, even my job where morale is really low. But that doesn't help when a felon is in the White House threatening my way of life and my family, a gay man married to an immigrant. So I've been decorating for Valentine's Day at my office.
Aww.
And lo and behold, all the other departments are decorating too. I like to think they all see my cubicle or work area and say, we'd better decorate too. Happy weekend, guys, and keep the faith.
Happy weekend to you too. That is amazing.
I like that. I really do like that. And then finally, this one's for you, Ken.
Oh, geez.
Hello, Elliott and Ken. About tripping on one's words. Years ago, I was talking to someone similarly affected, and they rolled out by saying, sorry, my tongue got caught on my teeth and I couldn't see what I was saying.
I'm using that one.
And I thought that was creatively hilarious, and it stuck with me all these years. Y'all are doing great. And, of course, we miss Patty. That's from Denise in St. Charles.
Oh, thank you, Denise.
So she's, shout out to you with your
I swear,
there.
I is educated. Oh, my God, I is.
Oh, God. There we go.
Woo.
All right, folks. We're heading into the last half hour of the show. It is flying by like I cannot believe.
And really quickly, if you haven't already, you can follow Heartland Signal on X, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Threads at Heartland Signal, one word. And be sure to check heartlandsignal.com for daily updates.
Wow. Whoa. So you read that one like a pro right there.
Because I is educated.
That you are, my friend. Yes. That you are. All right, folks. We got another break, and then when we come back, it's back to your phone calls and your texts. 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Folks, I am reading every text. I don't care if you're Emperor Palpatine and you're celebrating the fall of the Republic and the elimination of the Jedi. I'll even do it in the voice. All right? Because actually that particular text, that person texted something like earlier this week that I didn't read. Maybe I'll come back and I'll do it in the voice there. It sounded like Emperor Palpatine.
Snorting. This is horrible.
But hey, if you want to troll us too, go on ahead, troll us.
I'm used to it.
It's Elliott Serrano, Ken Mejia-Beal here on WCPT AM 820 as well as KTNF AM 950 in Minnesota. We're driving it home with Patti Vasquez, coming back after the break.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now at 773-763-9278. Driving it home with Patti Vasquez now on WCPT 820.
We're driving it home with Patti Vasquez and actually with special guest hosts, Elliott Serrano, Chief Geek Officer for the Patti Vasquez Show, and Ken Mejia-Beal, our Illinois liberal. I call him our
Illinois liberal and treasurer of Youth Outlook. You can find us at youth-outlook.org, helping make the lives of LGBT families better.
Man, and that's not happening in the nationwide, but
that is why Youth Outlook is so important right now, because we're surrounded by a lot of red. So if you feel the need to donate, go for it. That was my NPR voice. Did you?
That was good.
That's my asking for money voice.
That's good. That's very good. I haven't, as someone who's actually been on NPR, it takes me a while. Mind you, when we went to the last break, I went, my caffeine's kicked in now, and y'all were like, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Got to hog tie you by the time this is over.
This is great. But we've been talking about what makes us happy.
Makes us happy.
Well, I've been looking at the text line. Lots of folks have been texting in, and we've got people on the line. 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Call in. Tell us what makes you happy, like John in Chicago is calling. Hey, John, welcome to the show.
Is that me?
Yes, sir. How are you doing, John? What makes you happy?
Hi, I'm great. Well, this show, there was like a 7-second delay. I'm driving, and I'm on my radio listening on the phone, and I'm like, okay. Yes. So what brings me happy? I'm actually a friend of Ken's. We go way back.
Ken's going, what? Does Ken owe you money or something?
No, I know a lot of Johns. John, which John are you?
A list of Johns. Oh, goodness.
Don't make jokes about that.
You're the one who said it.
That was not a setup that I wanted.
The reason I'm calling, I want to tell you something that brings me joy.
Yes.
I'm a senior citizen in my 60s, and I live with my closest dear female friend. I'm a member of the LGBT community, and I used to live on a corner on Central and Catalpa. And what didn't bring me joy was that there was an accident there probably 10 times in 6 years, with cars almost ending up in my living room.
Oh, jeez.
So,
that's not good.
Yeah. To make a long story short, our apartment building was sold right up from under us. We had less than 30 days to move, and we moved to a different community of Jefferson Park, which is a beautiful neighborhood. It's like a dead-end street, people with beautiful houses walking their kids, as opposed to being on Central Avenue, which is an expressway 24/7. So what brings us joy in our new little neighborhood is that we have a front porch. I haven't had a porch since I was a child.
Aww.
And we always look forward to any holiday because we're the neighbors that are, it's an old neighborhood, but we're the neighbors that they consider us youngsters in our 60s. And we love to decorate our porch for any holiday. Any excuse to decorate our porch brings us so much joy, and we're like the talk of the neighborhood. Who are these people? Because we're both artists, we're both actors, and we're creative people. So, we just decorated for Valentine's Day. We had a whole thing for Christmas. We can't wait for the next holiday to decorate our porch. We just have so much fun celebrating holidays and just celebrating our young at heart selves in our community in Jefferson Park.
I love it, John.
I love it. John, I got to ask, for Halloween, I'm assuming you decorate then, do you give out the full-size candy bars or the mini?
No, but we do give out full-size scares.
Okay. I got to know where this house is, because that's where I'm going on Halloween.
Yeah, me too.
There.
Yeah, we set up the wireless speaker, and I spy on the kids, and they get candy too, but we'd like to scare the bejesus out of them.
I'll be there.
We'll be there.
Yeah.
John, thank you so much for sharing that.
Have a good one, John.
And both of you guys are amazing. You're doing a great job on the show today.
Oh,
thank you. Thank you. We got to make this show somewhere. Someone's going to hire us. Like this a regular thing.
The K&E show.
K&E
is coming.
I can create a logo and everything.
WCPT doesn't know it yet, but we're coming.
Yeah, look out.
There we are.
Look out.
We have the best producer, Lady B.
We
got this.
Yeah, and as long as I supply her with those extra strength cough drops.
That's right.
Make sure good. Good. Right?
We got this.
All right. 773-763-9278. Text us, call, share what's been making you happy.
Yeah.
I teased this. I don't want to. I'm going to risk bringing us down, but I want to get this in before our next break because I teased this in the last hour. You were talking about some things that the Democratic Party did to really like turn you off, that really got you how they were acting?
Well, the moderates.
The moderates, right.
Yeah.
And for me, this is something that's been going around as far as, but for me, as someone who grew up in the church.
Yeah, let's
and
talk
especially
about
being growing up not only in a church, but as growing up in the evangelical church. The whole thing with Bishop Buddy and the it's people who've been calling themselves Christians that have been pretty much criticizing her for what she said.
For being honest.
And this was said...
And for preaching the word of Jesus.
Yeah, right.
But whatever.
Well, this is a thing I just discovered. I go, are you kidding me? Apparently it's an issue within the Christian church in America, or at least the nationalist Christian church. Mm-hmm. Ben Garrett apparently is a pastor in the South. I'm not sure. Said on Twitter, do not commit the sin of empathy. This snake, and there's a picture of Bishop Buddy, is God's enemy and yours too. She hates God and his people. You need to properly hate in response. She is not merely deceived, but is a deceiver. Your eye shall not pity. And someone responded on Twitter, said, did you say the sin of empathy? I was going, are you seriously?
Yeah, that's,
well, apparently that's a thing. As addressed by Mark Sandlin, follow on Facebook. This was I want to read this real fast. I try to give the bit parts, but it says, talking about the radical empathy of Jesus. In the long arc of Christian theology, we have witnessed many bastardizations of Jesus' message, but few are as spiritually dangerous as the emerging concept of, quote, the sin of empathy. As I sit here reflecting on this morally corrupt notion, I'm reminded of Jesus' words, blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Those who would condemn empathy as sinful fundamentally misunderstand both the nature of sin and the life and teachings of Jesus. Jesus did not stand apart from human suffering. He wept at Lazarus' tomb. He felt compassion for the hungry crowds. He touched the untouchable lepers. Jesus' ministry was, in fact, defined by a radical empathy that drew him into the depths of human experience. To suggest that feeling deeply for others' pain somehow corrupts our moral judgment is to forget the Christian concept of the divine enter into human struggle and suffering. The cross itself stands as a symbol of Jesus' identification with human pain and resistance to systems of oppression. And it goes on a little bit more, but I mean, that's the bit in the beginning.
Yeah.
And see, again, as someone, who grew up in the church.
Yes.
And I consider myself a Christian.
Okay.
I do. I consider myself, I believe in the teachings of Jesus. I believe in the redemption that comes from that. Mind you, it's like, as I got older, I questioned more and more so much my quote-unquote faith. Not because of what God would do, but what people did.
Yeah.
What people in the church did.
Right.
Like, I struggle to find a church because I have so ingrained in me right now a skepticism of the interpretation that people will have of God. And I think that's why.
That's fair.
Yeah. I'll tell you. There are people, you will hear people in the church saying, well, we need to reach out to the unsaved. We need to do this, that. Folks, if you're a Christian and you think more about proselytizing and knocking on people's doors and preaching to them and trying to share the word of God, but you're not helping, you're not reaching out to the community and working and doing Jesus' works, you got to walk the walk. You can't just talk the talk. And people like that will turn people away from the church more than anything outside. Right.
Day. Every single day. So,
the fact that now within our nation we have quote unquote Christians turning against each other. And again, and another thing too, you mentioned you saw this on my Facebook page. I pointed out, I said, because there are a lot of folks who are Christian. They say I'm Christians. And they're like, don't put me in with them. You know, they say, well, Christians, because on social media right now, we're talking, it's bad enough that all these trolls and people who are really incredibly intolerant and cheering for Trump's policies, they also have little Bible quotes in their profiles.
Listen, if you have a Bible quote on your profile, you are probably the horrible human being, and that's really sad. And I go to church every Sunday, every other Sunday. But my point is I feel that when you're showing me materially how Christian you are, I'm skeptical now.
So and there are a lot of folks out there who are Christian who are saying, "Hey, I'm not saying
Correct.
I'm not criticizing what Bishop Buddy said."
Same.
And to which I say, "Hey, if you're a Christian and you don't like being lumped in with all the quote unquote fake Christians or the ones that make you look bad, welcome to being a Muslim in our country." Because all the time, every time something happens, a Muslim extremist or any radicalized or
every Muslim has to apologize,
has to denounce that,
and it's
have to denounce it.
It's outrageous. And Christianity, I do feel that a lot of the extreme Christians, I got it, have not read the New Testament.
No.
You have to, it's a whole thing. Like, they're like fire and brimstone, and it's like, okay, but there's this whole other testament about Jesus and love and acceptance. They say, get off of my lawn. And I'm like, okay.
Well, as I said, this person said, you have to hate others. And there's nowhere in the New Testament where Jesus said to hate anyone.
No, it didn't happen.
All right, this is our last break. And when we come back, we've got Jack on here who wants to say what made him happy. And I need Jack to tell me what made him happy because I depressed myself. This is Elliott Serrano and Ken Mejia-Beal co-hosting the Patti Vasquez show one last time. We'll be back after the break.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez on WCPT 820.
And we're back. This is Elliott Serrano and Ken Mejia-Beal, temporary co-host of the Patti Vasquez show here on WCPT. This has been
temporary. This has been great.
This has been great.
Yeah.
I think you and I have really gotten our act together here.
I do.
I think now we need to take this game on the show.
We're going to take this on the road. So if you have a bar, club, whatever, you want the K&E show?
Yeah, or how about just a nice radio booth, and then we can,
Yeah, we can come and set
the
up.
Whole thing. But I know CPT will have us back.
Oh, they will.
But this is going to be something.
We are a force to be reckoned with, America.
Look out, people, 2025. All right, we've been having the calls coming in. I've been reading the texts. On the line is Jack from Chicago with what makes him happy. Hi, Jack. How you doing?
Hello, Jack.
I'm doing pretty good. I made up my mind at the beginning of the week that I wasn't going to watch anything that had to do with the inauguration.
Smart.
And then I read about Bishop Buddy's sermon, and so I had to go back to YouTube and watch what she had to say. And I think I grew up in an evangelical background as well. And, of course, the Episcopalians are at the top of the list of Christians that the conservatives criticize because they're progressive and liberal, and they do things that they interpret the Bible a whole lot differently than the literal King James interpretation that evangelicals are so good at. But I think the irony of the fact that, first of all, that the person who is speaking truth to power in Washington from a Christian perspective is not a conservative evangelical, not from among the group that puts themselves at the top of everything when it comes to spirituality. It was an Episcopalian bishop, a female, a liberal progressive who spoke the word of God and interpreted it perfectly, and they were furious about it. And I think the reason they're furious about it is because they are, and I believe there's spiritual power in the church, and I believe that they have been spiritually blinded. I think that's a characteristic that they're showing. They're not able to see anything that's truthful about Donald Trump.
What is it? The spirit, as the scripture says, that if you will not believe the truth, the Lord will give you over to the lie and let you believe that.
Yes.
That is in there.
Yeah. I think the term that one of the gospel writers uses is that they'll be given over to a powerful delusion.
Right.
Yeah.
And these people are deluded. They're just. I was, watching listening to some of the things that Franklin Graham had to say, and it's like he's lost his balance. He's lost the centering of what he used to preach and teach. He's gone off in a whole. It doesn't even sound like what he used to say.
That's unfortunate, especially when you consider the good that Billy Graham did in early in his ministry. This all been pretty much, it's been very perverted. Thank you, Jack. Thanks for sharing that. We appreciate your perspective on that. I'm glad I'm not alone on this.
You're not.
Yeah, and we have one more person before we call it a night. Steve from the Gold Coast.
Steve from the Gold Coast.
The Gold Coast. Steve, did you hear we were talking about you?
Oh, really? I had no idea.
There was an earlier Steve that came on. There were a couple Steves. I go, wait, which Steve is this one? Well, you're Steve from the Gold Coast. So thanks for calling.
Yes, on my way to dinner, so I thought I'd tune in and heard you talking about religion. And with all due respect to people who believe, I respect your beliefs. I don't share them. But, anytime that your argument is dependent upon a religious teaching, especially within the Abrahamic foundation of belief, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, and all the sects that define them, because it's not as if there's one sect, one belief system for any of those religions. Yeah, it's a problem. I mean, I'm constantly having these debates with people, and I'll ask them, okay, so let's be clear. I don't believe in any supernatural power that governs the universe. You believe in exactly one. So you're as agnostic as I am about every other religion, except for one, yours. And it just happens to be the right one because you happen to have been born in this place at this time, in this family. Because if you had been born in India, I guarantee you would not believe what you do. And if you had been born in Afghanistan, I guarantee you would not believe what you do. And so, I mean, it's just bizarre to me that in the 21st century, we're actually relying upon religion in order to guide us. I mean, I'm sorry, we've done pretty well as a society, as a secular Western liberal society, as has Western Europe and so many other places in the world, where they enjoy the highest standard of living and the most freedom and the most prosperity. And guess what? It's got nothing to do with religion.
I agree.
No,
I 100% agree. I am a Christian. However, I've gotten into debates with folks, and they'll say, "Well, Ken, what does your religion dictate?" And it's like, it doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with anything.
But yes,
I'm not putting my personal religion onto the world because I'm not a jerk.
Right. Well, also, and the concept of America. I mean, a lot of times you'll have people say, "Well, America is a Christian nation because the founding fathers
had slaves and didn't like women."
Well, the Bible doesn't say anything. The Bible does not say that slaves are bad.
That is true.
I mean, even in the New Testament, the apostles said, the apostles didn't come out and say that slavery is bad. It just said, hey, be nicer to your slaves.
Be nicer to the slaves. You are correct.
So again, back to this whole thing about the Bible being the arbiter of morality. Because to Steve's point, I know there are a lot of folks that go, well, you don't believe in this. Then, like, I see this all the time. If you're an atheist, how do you have a moral compass? How can I know that you're being a moral person? The response is, hey, if the reason you're doing good is because you're afraid of being punished, then you're not really a good person. An atheist can say, I'm doing...
And it begs the question. Yeah, and it begs the question, exactly how did 99% of the world get along, never having heard of Christianity or your religion, having lived out their lives? People in the Americas never heard of Jesus or Christianity. Are you telling me that all of those thousands of generations who lived out their lives here were immoral? I mean, come on.
I agree.
It's just more than a bit ridiculous. But again, people believe what they want to believe. And look, the founding fathers were children of the Enlightenment. That means they believed in a secular society. This notion that America was founded as a religious state, no. It had elements of individuals who were founding fathers that were men of religion, but they didn't believe in a religious society. They didn't believe in a religious government. There is no religious test to become president, to hold office, anything along those lines. You can take the oath of office to become president on a copy of Playboy magazine if you want. I mean, I'm sorry. People are just deluded with regard to how they interpret history.
If I've made this joke before. If I ever run for office and I get elected, I'm taking my oath of office on Captain America's shield. I want one of those.
Mine would be Dr. Seuss Green Eggs.
Dr.
Exactly.
Seuss, yeah.
Green Eggs in hand.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks,
I appreciate you chiming in. Steve from the Gold Coast.
Yes.
So we know it was that Steve.
Gold Coast Steve.
Gold Coast Steve. Got to remember these, write these down. Or if you're President Trump, you don't have to touch the Bible at all.
You don't have to.
You just,
I know we're about to, but Elliott, are you feeling happier now?
I'm a little bit happier.
Good. And that is why I'm here.
I mean, I'll tell you, you know what would make me really happy? If I'd hear back from these people from that job interview I went on.
Guys.
Come on.
Call Elliott.
Hey, how about this? Can everyone put out some good juju into the universe for me? Just, say, hey, we think Elliott's a good guy. He's a capable guy. Hey, I don't need DEI.
What is DEI?
I don't know.
I thought it was a race to yesterday.
Affirmative action. I'm affirmative on this. I got to take some action. Anyway, for everyone who called in, everyone who texted, this has been a heck of a week.
Yes,
thank you so much. I want to give you Ken, thanks so much.
And thank you.
We weren't planning this. It just kind of happened, right?
No, this has been great. Working this has all been great, guys.
Yeah, it has. And then, as always, to the listeners of WCPT and Chicago's Progressive Talk, thank you so much for always being active, always being engaged, for calling in, for texting, even for Emperor Palpatine, who wants the nation of America to burn to the ground.
We're whiny, and we burn to the ground.
We're just whiny Democrats. But hey. You know what? But that's a great part about being in America. You're allowed to whine.
It's my country. I'll cry if I want to.
Oh, that's good. And for 4 years, we had to handle, let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. And then before that, and now they're out there going, man, we didn't complain when our guy wasn't. Oh, my goodness.
We were great.
We were great. We went to work. I don't know why you liberals are talking so much. When your guy, when Biden was in office, we just went to work. No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
I saw you.
Yeah, we saw that. You complained.
You guys were burning crosses places.
But hey, well,
but we're here now.
Short of burning crosses, guess what? You're allowed to complain. I think that's great.
Absolutely.
You're allowed to complain. And guess what? I'm going to complain. I'm going to be loud about it, too. I'm waiting for the price of eggs to come down. And telling you, I don't see why they're I don't know any of these Colombian gang members hanging out in schools.
I don't either.
I don't think they're there.
I think
you can look somewhere else.
It's a figment.
All right. Where can we find you, though?
Find me at Ken Mejia-Beal. Also, feel free to look at youth-outlook.org. Press that donate button. We could use your help.
You can find me on all the socials at Elliott Serrano with 2 L's, 2 T's, and 2 R's. Facebook, Instagram. Hey, I'm on LinkedIn, too. So you can find me there. And, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Be good to each other. We only get so much time on this planet.
Be good to yourself.
Be good to yourself.
Yeah.
And remember, Patty will be back next week, and hopefully we'll still be around.
We ain't dying soon.
We ain't dying soon. Coming up next is Randy Road. It's been Elliott Serrano, Ken Mejia-Beal. I'm driving it home. Have a great weekend, everyone.
I
keep doing it.